See, Kathy knows that her job could potentially be on the line as well. So she don't want to destroy the growth that is already happening with the WNBA, because we've seen what happened last year when everybody went against Caitlin Clark. Look at the numbers today. They ain't what they was last year.
The situation was allowed to spiral out of control for far too long, and now it's finally exploded. After months of fans demanding accountability, the WNBA has taken decisive action by suspending Commissioner Kathy Angelberg. This outcome wasn't triggered by a single bad call or a missed whistle. It was the result of years of growing tension, visible favoritism, consistent bias, and unchecked chaos that had been brewing within the league.
Another year and another case of WNBA referees dropping the ball, not making the right calls when it comes to Caitlin Clark.
Another year, another controversy. And once again, WNBA referees are under fire for failing to make the right calls when it comes to Caitlin Clark. From the controversial Game 5 of last year's finals to the chaotic fallout from the Fever versus Liberty showdown, the league has been operating more like a reality show without a director. And the real star, it wasn't Commissioner Kathy Angelberg, it was the fans. Because this suspension didn't come from closed-door meetings or boardroom decisions. It came from viral TikToks, explosive Twitter threads, and video breakdowns, exposing refs blatantly ignoring what many are calling assault-level contact on Caitlin Clark. It felt less like officiating and more like an audition for a show called Blindside. Now that Angelberg is officially out, the question is, what really happened behind the scenes? Who made the final call? And more importantly, is this the first domino in a complete overhaul of the WNBA? Suspending a commissioner doesn't just change the narrative, it blows it wide open. This is no longer about one person. This could be the beginning of the most dramatic transformation in league history. Before we dive deeper into the officiating madness, the fan uprising, and player reactions, make sure you're locked in, because this saga is far from over. You're not crazy. You saw it, you felt it, you shouted at your screen. And now, the WNBA has finally been forced to listen. This wasn't a coincidence. It was rigged. And that's not just a theory anymore. It's what millions are now saying, openly across social media, live broadcasts, and press conferences.
That's what millions are saying out loud on social media, on live broadcasts, in press conferences.
It was one of the worst referee games I've seen.
The referees for again, what, the second game in a row, I guess? Definitely for the second game of the season, the referees swallowed their freaking whistles.
The Indiana Fever were blatantly robbed on national television. And this wasn't some one-time thing. It's part of a long disturbing pattern that fans are no longer willing to tolerate. The officiating has reached a point where it feels not just unfair, but reckless. Some are even calling for the referees to be investigated for criminal negligence. Caitlin Clark, at the center of it all, has endured so much on the court that she could legitimately consider filing for hostile workplace conditions. After all, if you wouldn't allow a knife on the court, why are dangerously long fingernails being ignored? But perhaps the most explosive allegation yet is the possibility that these referees were paid off. If true, it doesn't just undermine the integrity of the game, it shatters it.
They just kept shoving Caitlin. They're like, well, they can't just keep calling fouls. I'm like, they're literally just running around hacking her. The referees have made it like a point that this is how you beat the Fever. You hack them. It's not being physical, you just hack them.
Stay with me, because it gets even worse. This wasn't just any regular season matchup. It was Indiana Fever versus New York Liberty, a high-stakes showdown packed with playoff-level intensity, a sold-out arena, a national broadcast, and all eyes locked on Caitlin Clark. The energy in the building was electric, but the officiating was absolutely disgraceful. The Liberty was sent to the free throw line 32 times, while the Fever went just 15, more than double in a game that came down to the final moments. And it wasn't just the lopsided numbers. It was the way the fouls were called. Liberty players were getting whistles for the softest touches, barely bare contact that wouldn't snap a twig, while Fever players were shoved, bumped, hacked, and tossed around with no calls at all. It wasn't just inconsistent officiating. It felt like two different games being played under two completely different sets of rules. The WNBA referees didn't just swallow their whistles. They spat in the face of fairness. And when Caitlin Clark was violently thrown to the ground with no foul call, it became painfully clear this wasn't just bad officiating. It was a total collapse of integrity.
Greening action down low. Clark has to get open. 1 second left. Clark doesn't get the shot off. Cloud locks.
Let's talk about the league's biggest star, Caitlin Clark. From the moment she set foot on a WNBA court, it was as if players were given an unspoken license to target her with physical play, and the referees simply looked the other way. It started in the preseason. She took contact, no calls. Then came the first 3 regular season games. Hard drives met with arm grabs, body checks, shoulder bumps, and still nothing. Then it happened again, this time in front of a national audience. Final possession, game tied, the Fever with a chance to win. Clark was fouled not once, not twice, but 4 times on a single play. Her shooting arm was hit. Her body was bumped mid-air. She was dragged down, and yet the officials ignored it all. Her frustration was written all over her face, arms raised, a shouting in disbelief, while the referees couldn't even meet her gaze. But it didn't stop there. Just moments before Clark's no call, Lexi Hull had played flawless, clean defense on Sabrina Ionescu, no contact, no shot, and yet the refs called a phantom foul and handed Sabrina 2 free throws. That's not bad officiating. That's game manipulation. And fans knew it. They didn't just bend. They mobilized. Social media erupted with video receipts and data. Through 4 games, the Fever had a staggering minus 31 free throw differential. That's not an off night. That's a systemic breakdown. The pattern was undeniable. Caitlin Clark wasn't being protected. She was being targeted. The league's brightest star was being hung out to dry, either by sheer incompetence or deliberate favoritism. And finally, someone inside the system spoke out. Indiana Fever head coach Stephanie White had seen enough, and she reached her breaking point.
I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. The disrespect right now for our team.
In her post-game press conference, following the Liberty matchup, Indiana Fever head coach Stephanie White didn't hold back. She called the officiating what it was: blatant disrespect. This was the last straw, she said, pointing directly at the referees, a minus 31 free throw gap. Egregious, in her words. And the most damning part, the Fever weren't just launching threes all game. They were relentlessly attacking the rim, taking hit after hit in the paint, fighting through contact, and getting absolutely no calls in return. Stephanie White didn't tiptoe around the issue, she roared. Her message was loud and clear, not just to the league, but to her players and to fans everywhere. We see what's happening, we feel it, and we refuse to stay silent. Even Caitlin Clark, typically calm, composed, and focused on moving to the next play, hinted at the injustice. There were a couple tough ones where my arm was getting grabbed, but whatever, just keep shooting, she said. But that whatever wasn't apathy. It was restrained fury, frustration buried beneath professionalism. And when Aaliyah Boston, another key figure for the Fever, spoke up, Her words hit just as hard. They're going to call what they want to call. Let that sink in. Two of the WNBA's rising stars had seen enough, and they weren't afraid to say so. The WNBA's brightest stars know exactly what's going on, and until now, nothing was being done about it. But everything changed, because now the entire world knows. Fans turned into investigators overnight, demanding referee accountability, asking for names, salaries, even banking records. They weren't joking. Some were calling for refs' bank accounts to be checked to see if they were paid off. Outrage boiled over, with demands that Dejanai Carrington be kicked out of the league, and calls for the Indiana Fever to file a lawsuit against the WNBA. These weren't just scattered voices. They were part of a rising chorus, one that the league could no longer ignore. And at the center of the storm was Commissioner Kathy Engelberg. This wasn't the first time her leadership had been questioned. Fans quickly pointed back to Game 5 of the 2024 Liberty vs. Lynx series, when the Liberty were crowned champions in overtime. But the headlines told a different story. A controversial foul called on Alana Smith flipped the entire game, leaving Lynx head coach Cheryl Reeve furious. New York had played with extreme physicality, and the referees let it slide. Fans didn't forget, and once again, their anger zeroed in on Engelberg. Kathy Engelberg, you need to resign, they shouted back then. Now with a new scandal erupting, that demand has only grown